All right, hello everyone. I'm back at the desk underneath the lights looking at lowercase letters. So I'm continuing this study of lowercase letters. I've done a couple videos before this. Check out the description if you haven't seen those to get those links or the link to the playlist. But today we're looking at O, C, and A. This is a family of lowercase letters that has a very similar movement. I'm grouping them together because they all have this what's called direct oval, direct movement. So it's this counterclockwise movement going on with these letters. But they all obviously have their own individual quirks, which makes them distinct and readable. And we're going to cover each one in terms of the form and movement required to make them, and then we'll get into just some drills and things you can do to practice as you work on these letters. So first up is the O, which is really the simplest one, I guess geometrically I would say. And you can see I have these red dotted dashed lines here. This more vertical dashed line here is the main slant of my script, which is 52 degrees to the baseline. And then this other dotted or dashed red line is perpendicular to that main slant. So what that's allowed me to do is really see this oval or ellipse technically that makes up the O. And for this O, basically what I've tried to do is draw a perfectly symmetrical ellipse. Different styles, different scripts might deviate from that perfect symmetrical shape, but I don't really see a reason to do it, in at least when I'm trying to geometrically draw this letter perfectly. If I add a little style to my letter, to my O, or if a style that I'm going for has, maybe a narrower top and a wider bottom, that's okay. But just to demonstrate this symmetrical O, to demonstrate the form here today, I did try to make it as symmetrical as possible, which it's not perfect, but you can see each one of these quadrants is kind of the same size and has the same curve going around. So that would be the O. You have your exit stroke here that comes from the top and just kind of goes out to the right. Moving on to the C. Well, and I'll just with the O real quick. This is the full range of movement, really, because it's a full oval. It's much smaller than your capital heights when you're doing lowercase, but it's requiring you to go through the full range of what your arm can do, of what muscular movement can do. So you're going to have some forearm hinge movement, this type of movement in this direction, and then you're going to have some shoulder movement or up and down movement as you go through the various parts of this letter, especially when you get to this area, which is probably the most awkward part of the letter, moving from this in this upper right quadrant of the O. Okay? All right, now let's move on to the C, which is a little more complicated. I have two dashed red lines here. One is the main slant. Again, I have that here, this more vertical line. And then this more horizontal line is our connective slant, which is at 29 degrees, which I'm not going to get into why I have it at 29 degrees, but I think that's a great connective slant. And you can see how the C really, it's kind of like the left half of the O here, symmetrical against this main slant. And then once it gets here, it transitions, and now we're working with this connective slant, and we're just doing a right curve, which is a fundamental stroke, around this connective slant. So really, the finish is kind of like an I, like the beginning of an I, or the exit of an I, which is the same thing. So really, it's this two-part kind of, you can think of it as two shapes put together. You have this oval ellipse movement here, direct motion, and then transitions into this shallower right curve fundamental stroke. Right curve against the connective slant. So pretty simple letter as well, but a little more complicated than the O. Now the A, I'm not really sure I've quite figured this one out yet. As you can see, I have a connective slant here, a main slant here, and another connective slant here. And if you just kind of look at everything that is to the right of this connective slant here, you can really see this I form going on in the second half of this letter. And I think that's pretty much universal in everything I've seen. Every script in terms of business penmanship that I've seen, they really strive to have this really nice I form going on in the second half of this letter. Now the first half of this letter, which is this hump to the left of that connective slant, that's where you see a lot of variation on in how different penmen conceived it in their minds and how they executed it in their work. But I guess, to me, I kind of almost think of it as an oval shape that is symmetrical to this connective slant, which isn't really a shape you see, as far as I know, anywhere else in the script. But I think that's a good way to think of it, because you definitely want this side to be more round. You want more area, more space between this curve and the connective slant than you do between the connective slant and this underturn, or this right curve. So you really want this more oval, rounded shape going on. And then once you hit the bottom towards the baseline, then you're just transitioning into your eye. So then you just go straight to an eye. And I think that's really definitely part where people struggle, is making this look like an eye at the end, because it is difficult when you're coming at it from this weird angle. Anyway, those are the forms and kind of how you move through the letters. I hope you can see why I put them together. They all have this general direct motion, which, that's, I'll get some ink on my pen here. That's really the place to start with these letters, is this direct oval. You can do them running like this to warm up. And then what I really like to do is start with a push-pull on the main slant and then transition into a direct oval. I'm really trying to bisect that oval with that main slant and create a really nice symmetrical oval around it. So that's something good to practice. Now you can add some things to this. Like this C, it's basically an oval, and then it exits with this eye stroke. So you could do, some ovals and then just exit like that, just to kind of practice going from that oval motion to that exit, that more shallower on that connective slant exit motion. You could also do some retrace stuff with these letters. So the O in particular, you might want to retrace a certain part of this ellipse. The part that I struggle with is this part up here. It's just it's a lot of upper arm movement, which is part of the arm that most people have the least control with. So I like to just do some direct ovals and then just trying to feel that area, where you could start with that area and then go into it, just to give your arm the feeling and the extra time to work with that part of the oval that it usually doesn't work with. Because that does seem to be the part when I'm making some O's where I can have some problems. All right, and then for the A is an interesting, I think it's an interesting form, because it's not really, I'm still having trouble defining it geometrically. It's not really easy to do that, but obviously when I'm talking about this entry thing. So what I think one way to think about it is kind of this kind of geometry. So this is obviously an angular version of this letter that has no curves. But you kind of think of it as you're going out and then you're coming down. And then you're doing your eye. Now that's a little exaggerated. People call it an almond shape. That might help you kind of visualize it. But it's really this half almond where, it's not symmetrical in any way. The connective slant is there, and the rest of the letter does obey that connective slant. But for that first part, you're just kind of making that almond shape area. And for some reason, I kind of find it helpful to think about it in these terms, where I'm coming out to the left and then I'm coming down. You can do retraces with this, so you can just do this and then finish with your eye. You can go into the eye and do some retraces here and finish it. You could retrace this part of the eye stroke, and then finish it. So play around with it, see where you are having trouble, see what's, see what feels uncomfortable in your arm, in your hand, maybe where you're being a little erratic or jerky with the pen. Focus in on those areas. Those are the problems that you're having, and really zoom in on those areas, break the letter down so that you can practice those little areas, whether it's with a retrace or just doing like single strokes across the page, little parts of the letter. Break it down and see what you can learn. See what you can let your arm learn. There's nothing you can really do to help this process along except to observe what you're having trouble with, and then just experimenting and exploring on how you can just dive deeper into what the problem is. So I'm going to leave it there. I think we knocked out 3 letters in a good amount of time there. So thanks for watching. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, I'd love to have you as a subscriber so you can get notified of my new videos. Check me out on Instagram @perfectbiscuits, or you can go to my website perfectbiscuits.com. I just have lists of links there where you can find me on other social media channels, and where you can send me an email as well. Or of course you can always leave a comment on this video if you have any questions, and I will take a look at it for sure. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.